Okay, what are you guys sending me? They could destroy the history of video game. What is this? Like, oh my god, you yield chat. Let's see.
Alright, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about a really sad and dark and pretty grim ruling, in my opinion, for the video game industry. As you guys probably know,
it's about
been like a long-term
library
viewer
stuff,
here on the
right?
channel, I am a big proponent, and I've made plenty of content and things talking about video game preservation, video game emulation, things like this, right? It is something that I'm pretty passionate about because I feel like not only just me, but so many of us in the gaming scene or whatever, right? You know, we look back extremely fondly on the past in video games, you know, all the games that we grew up playing as kids, no matter what age you are, you know what I mean? If you're in your 20s like me and you grew up with the GameCube and the PlayStation 2 and things like this, or even if you're old enough to remember the beginning, basically, of the commercial video game market,
Love
we
my
all look
Atari.
back extremely fondly on it, whether it be one or dozens of games from our childhood that have basically influenced us in a bunch of different ways, right? Well, video game preservation has been a pretty hot button topic, not even just in the video game industry, but realistically across the entire entertainment industry. And there was a multi-year battle in the courts, basically, with the US Copyright Office and video game history people and pioneers and people who just basically want to preserve the history of video games. Now, this entire battle has been based around the idea of basically preserving video games in a way where people can still access them
outside
and
of the
play
museum
them after however many years. I mean, there's multiple different reasons why, as time goes on, video games become harder and harder to access, but since we all love video games so much, and since we all care about this industry and this entertainment medium in general
legally
so much,
anyway,
many of us know that, like, the future of the video game industry doesn't necessarily guarantee that these things will be remembered fondly. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that people in future generations will be able to come back and look at these incredible...
Yeah, let's be honest, though. If a lot of the corporations, not just video game, but a lot of corporations have their way about it, you will only experience whatever product they are putting out at the time, and that's it. The second out print, you should forget it any exists.
Games. So, a 3-year fight to help support game preservation has come to a sad end today. The US Copyright Office has denied a request for a DMCA exemption that would allow libraries to remotely share digital access to preserved video games.
When were they posted?
For the past 3 years, the Video Game History Foundation has been supporting with the Software Preservation Network on a petition to allow libraries and archives to remotely share digital access to out-of-print video games in their collections. VGHF explains in its statement, quote, "Under the current anti-circumvention rules in Section 1201 of the DMCA, libraries and archives are unable to break copy protection on games in order to make them remotely accessible to researchers. Essentially, this exemption would open up the possibility of a digital library where historians and researchers could check out digital games that run through emulators. The VGHF argues that around 87% of all video games released in the US before 2010 are now out of print, and the only legal way to access those games now is through the occasionally exorbitant prices and often failing hardware that defines the retro gaming market." So there's a massive problem in the video game industry where even publishers and, you know, the companies that own the licenses and the rights to all these different IP, right, they don't necessarily care about how video games are perceived beyond the point of consumption commercially. So let's take Nintendo, for instance, because they're the company, you know, they've been notable in their
doing
efforts
this in
to
the
try
90s.
to destroy emulation and try to destroy...
Do you remember Nintendo literally was like, and if I remember right, was it like, did they go in front of Congress for this? If I remember right, I don't remember what that brand. Either way, they went in front of like the government in the 90s in the US to try to stop like rental services, you know, like your Blockbuster, your Hollywood Video, your mom and pops, from any allowing them to rent video games. So Nintendo, like Nintendo and Sega, both were there like in the forefront of like the Master System, Super Nintendo, Genesis era. So they've been there forever. trying to fight this.
Game preservation. This is a company that, like I said, you know, many of us, for instance, grew up with like the GameCube or the NES or the Nintendo 64, whatever it may be.
Gotta keep in the vault Disney style and sell it to you every 20 years.
For them are so old at this point that they aren't on the market really anymore, right? You, for instance, can't walk into GameStop and buy a brand new cartridge of Super Mario World. You know what I mean?
No, your bet option is, once again, either through third parties or maybe, which is like any more bet, like three scenario for a lot of this stuff. Of like, either you do the whole eBay resell or hope a collector or give up on collecting, die, insult, whatever they'll. Then you have the other side of that of hoping that you have companies like what Limited One have done in the past. I know a couple others have done this as well. I'm doing like actual weed plants, or like collector edition. I know Capcom did that, like, what was that? I think a couple years ago they did that with like Street Fighter 2. They did like a Super Nintendo weed plant, but it was only like, I think, what was it, like 10K copies or something. It was something limited. And then you have the other side of that of hoping it pop up on like GOG, Steam, or like in the case of Nintendo, pop up on like a little like streaming services, and they don't have a like the eShop of retro stuff doesn't exactly exist now outside a few when we make that have happen from Atlas and Sega. But for the most part, you know, you have to whim or whatever they're gonna put up on that streaming service, which, let's be honest, not a lot. What, that thing been going now for what, like 6-7 years now, and like what, maybe 50 games on that total. So,
and if you do, you're going to be paying hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, you know, depending on what game it is that you're trying to buy. And even if you do finally get your hands on like a physical copy of one of these old games that you want to preserve, or, you know, from your childhood or whatever, physical media ends up failing eventually, right? You know, yeah. CDs and DVDs, they eventually rot or break down. Hard drives break down. They fucking they decay. Hardware, you know, the parts inside of it maybe become non-functional, or the electrical wires or whatever fray. You know,
a lot of tech issues.
Hardware, everything physical, it wears down. And so eventually, for games that came out in like the 90s, for instance, right, there will come a day where all of the cartridges that we have that save these games or whatever will just no longer work. They'll have rotted and decayed beyond the point of being usable. Yeah. And if we don't have, you know, digital archives and we don't continue to physically archive these pieces of work, there is a legitimate chance that these games could literally become lost media or be overwashed in the history books, right? And I think that is a sad,
there's a lot of games that are like that now
for video games in general. And this is one of the things I talked about pretty extensively in the book I just published, right? Is the entire gaming industry essentially is trying to bury physical media in general, because publishers, they want to make it to where, you know, you have to play video games always online. They want you to access an online point to be able to play the video game, even if it's single player. They want to be able to shut the game servers off whenever they feel necessary and kill the game so they can move on to the next project. And when a video game is no longer really making these companies money, they don't view it as anything anymore. I mean, in Hollywood, for instance, when a movie is no longer in the...
Yo, how you doing, Mason? Welcome. Quite got it distracted. Going on about video game preservation and all the stuff happening around that right now. How you doing, Mason?
The box office, and it's no longer making the big bucks. It's still archived, you know, it's still considered history. All these different production studios and shit, they've got entire warehouses full of like master reels for movies, and, you know, just like basically preserving.
You know, the funny part about that right there, the whole master stuff, like, yeah, some of them do have it, but also don't forget that stuff decay as well. Or you have the situation like what happened with like Doctor Who, well, literally there was so much like Doctor Who content that just gone because like the BBC just recorded over the videos for the master wheel because they needed, you know, extra wheels for other stuff. So like any like the master stuff stacked away will eventually all go as well.
Bring all of this shit. But for whatever reason, you know, the video game industry doesn't want to follow suit. They don't want these things to be viewed as artwork, which I don't understand, because anyone in their right mind knows that a video game...
Yeah, let's be honest. The only people that cares about video game being artwork is a very select few outsiders, because like, and obviously some of the people who obviously work on the games, but when it come to give me the net thing type gamer, and when it come to a lot of the corporation, especially a lot of publishers and stuff, they're like, nah, they're like, these are not artwork. There's no this, and then, you know, putting out like Halloween flavored Twinkies or some shit, you know. It's just about the in the moment consumption.
Is art in and of itself. And these things are so massively influential. I mean, think of all of the games that have came out over time that you think like, man, I hope my kids get to play that game someday because it's so phenomenal. But yet the industry and a lot of the fans in the industry are against the notion of preserving video games. They don't care about physical media. They don't care about archiving. They don't care about emulation. Or they believe these corporations like Nintendo at face value, and they think that these things are fucking harmful when they're not. And it just blows my mind. And then consider the fact that...
Yeah, it only harmful if you are not, if you are planning to re-release the thing. But the thing is, like, a lot of it, like, oh, okay, I shouldn't say that. Okay. It only harmful is if you plan on re-releasing it, and it only harmful because of how, I can't speak for other country, but in America, the whole thing of you have to defend your copyright or you can lose it. And how obviously a lot of the corporations don't want no shit to go into the public domain. Them are the only two ways it's harmful. Which, in return, I personally feel like, you know, on one hand, obviously, you know, being able to get the games out there, along as, you know, it not like, you know, abandoned well or whatnot, like, you know, the games that copyright a file and the company went under and then no one actually owned it at all. And then at that point, that stuff should 100% be public domain. 100%. And it should be able to be archived. But the problem is, you know, as we have seen from Nintendo, Nintendo will go after a WOM site that don't even have Nintendo games on it. So, which is the other thing that I really would change. Well, if, you know, you go after insert whatever WOM site you want, if Nintendo want to, like, you know, go in now and sue them, don't have Nintendo sue them and then have that site also take down Sega games or PS1 games or whatever. Only Nintendo games. But that's not how they operate. Like many WOM site who hold, you know, games outside of Nintendo get shut down because Nintendo sent a cease and desist. But yeah, I kind of feel like that one thing that need to change. Also the whole, like, if you do have the right to it, you very much should have some version of it available. Might it be doing the same shit that like the libraries are wanting to do, you know, through like web browser emulation type stuff. You know, just have your own version of it. Like hell, Capcom kind of did this with like the Capcom Museum stuff. Well, they had it where you could go to like Capcom website and play like Mega Man and shit. Like that, what Capcom did there should be the norm overall. And then if you want to, you know, lock that behind a paywall, whatever, have at it, you know. Or the other side of this of being like, also those should be like, once again, like some type of law to stop. You know, I shouldn't say stop, but make it well, in some way. Once again, not a lawyer here, but like in a way that don't encourage bad behavior because of copyright. Because I know there are plenty of like game devs out there that same thing. I get not just game devs, like movie music. A lot of them would want to have like the music or movies or games or whatever out there. But like once you start involving like copyright laws in there, and how they have to take the stuff down or they lose the copyright. A lot of them, I know, like, bluntly have said they don't wanna, they just have to, because legally they have to. Like, put something in there to make it, well, like, maybe having to heavily enforce it like that is not enforcing that onto whoever is making whatever art form. Allow them to be able to keep the copyright without having to constantly be defending it, any if they don't want to defend it. There's something that would be like ideal. But don't get me wrong, you would still always have Nintendo that, obviously will defend it no matter what. Look at what's happening with like the Nintendo MMO rumor floating around and the whole DMCA that floating around that right now as an example of that. But yeah, like I feel like not only is our laws kind of fucked up in a lot of ways for copyright, but also the whole being able to abuse it in the case of Nintendo to take down site with no Nintendo stuff on it. A lot of that stuff, I think that right there will a lot of the work need to be done. Like, don't get me wrong, the whole like video game, archive type stuff is great. But I think the other problems are also kind of getting in the way of a lot of this.
87% of all games released in the US before 2010 are out of print. I mean, these publishers actively choose to stop making these games and to stop creating new copies of them, which created this entire retro market, right? Like when you go and you try and buy a retro game, good luck. I mean, for instance, a couple months ago, I went and I got Pokemon Gale of Darkness and I got Pokemon Coliseum for the GameCube. Both games came with like the manuals, obviously the disc, or well, the little GameCube disc. It had like everything that would come in a normal copy of it. Both games combined were over $400. Yep. So imagine trying to actually collect video games and preserve them. You either have to
once again not counting the lot
buku money basically to spend on this shit, or you basically are just priced entirely out of the market. And all of
don't you worry, chat. I still say the video game industry gonna price everyone out of the market at aim for new stuff. Like only pause anyway. Just like the retro scene.
Games are out of print, so when those games are getting sold, these publishers aren't even making money on that, right? So it really just doesn't make sense to me. Still, the U.S. Copyright Office has said no. Quote, the register concludes that proponents did not show that removing the single user limitation for preserved computer programs or permitting off-premises access to video games are likely to be non-infringing, according to the final ruling. Quote, she also notes the greater risk of market harm with removing the video game exemption's premises limitation, given the market for legacy video games. That ruling cites the belief of the Entertainment Software Association and other industry lobby groups that, quote, there would be a significant risk that preserved video games would be used for recreational purposes. We cannot, of course, entertain the notion that researchers enjoy their subjects for even a moment. More importantly, this also ignores the fact that libraries already lend out digital versions of more traditional media like books and movies to everyday people for what can only be described as recreational purposes. Members of the VGHF are naturally unhappy with the decision. Unfortunately, lobbying efforts by rights holder groups continue to hold back progress. The group says in its statement, noting that the ESA's absolutist position that it would not support a similar sort of copyright reform under any circumstances. So I guess their idea, right, is that, well, if we allow people to create digital libraries where researchers and whatnot can check out copies of video games, and we can preserve these games and preserve their history and
we sell them
that they made, apparently people will enjoy it. Oh my goodness, can you believe it, right? The researchers may have fun with their research. Oh my god. Now, imagine if you heard the same argument be made for, like, historians and, once again, the movie industry, right? Where it's like, well, if...
Sam! How you doing, Sam? Pi got it distracted. We were playing Pi game, and then Pi came in being like, I can't walk right now, get distracted for 30 minutes. Well, Pi sent out the video about game preservation, and now here we are. How you doing, Sam? How you doing tonight?
If we allow people to watch the original Star Wars movie, I mean, geez, what if they enjoyed it while they were researching and, you know, entertaining the classics? Oh my god, what would we do? Like, the whole point of a video game is that it is an entertainment medium, right? It is an entertainment product. You are supposed to have fun with a video game. It's like saying, okay, well, we're gonna preserve the history of comic books. Oh, well.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, yeah. The whole, like, enjoyment, yes. But then you could also make the whole argument, which is like an argument I make all the time, about any of the world's shittiest game that you can think of. I'm looking at you, Rainbow Moon. any of Rainbow Moon no will know how bad some of the games I have played in my time. I'm still looking at you, Tower of Fantasy PS4. But that game doesn't even work. The controller don't even work for that game. But nonetheless, and like I'm still a firm believer of
I'm doing okay, thank you. How are you doing?
I am doing fairly okay. I woke up at like I see the bot does do slashes now. I'm doing fairly decent. I woke up at like 6:40 and now here I am. I'm still kind of waking up, but I'm getting out. But I'm doing fairly decent for the most part. But oh yeah, I don't know what I was saying. Well, the whole thing of like any the most terrible game ever made known to man can still have pieces in there that could be like very, very useful, especially not only from like the historical like history type of thing, but also from like an education side of thing for like design. Like if you want an example of a game recently we played where like parts of it like it would be great if we were adapted in different way with like Lifeline when we did that for Halloween. There were parts of Lifeline where just like that literally got my brain juices going to the point of like doing like redesign stuff that like, man, we might have to do that when we do that game jam in a few months. So I got 2 months now, but you know, there it purpose in there beyond just enjoyment. Any with terrible games.
We can't do that. People might enjoy it too much. People might have too much fun reading a Captain America, you know? Like, what kind of stupid fucking argument is that, right? You know, it just doesn't
I'm pretty sure people have fun reading, like, some of the most horrible shit like that ever happened in, like, history books, you know?
Sense whatsoever. We can't preserve this recipe that's been passed down for generations for this really awesome stew because people might think it tastes too good, in fact. What if people enjoy it too much? Like, what a stupid fucking argument for like, well, we can't preserve history now. And the craziest part is the publishers, they support this. And the biggest argument in favor of it isn't even just like, you know, all people may steal, whatever, right? All the stupid copes that you hear for, well, we can't preserve video games. All of those stupid copes, you know, the main argument is that, well, there is already an established market with the retro gaming market, and what if we were unfair to the people who are selling GameCube games for $500 a pop? When they initially cost like 40, 50, 60 bucks, right? What if we hurt their feelings and they lost money? I mean, honestly, good. That's a good thing. These video games shouldn't cost thousands of dollars for sealed copies anyway. If public
X. I think the bot name broken. Oh, that remind me. I gotta turn on some channel point tonight, chat. I gotta turn some stuff back on.
Publishers don't want to lose out on the revenue and whatnot of people wanting to play these old games, maybe they should continue manufacturing new copies so that people can buy them at a good price if they don't want that to happen. They literally make money by doing that. Nobody loses in that scenario, right? People get
the part, like, let's be honest, so like they wouldn't produce like physical stuff at all. Remember with five shield X. Oh god, did it break? Did my stuff break again? Hang on, chat. Let me see about fixing this.
Get games cheaper, they're able to preserve them much easier. The corporation makes money for a game that
oh yeah. What I was saying. The whole physical stuff, honestly, like, let's be honest, equal points, you're not gonna do that. The digital stuff, on the other hand,
good, you scammer.
I'm good at, well, for the most part. I'm waking up. I had one a moment ago, and Luna looking very sleepy net to me, so I got night going good for the most part. Any pride was like, don't play the game I want. What videos? So here we are. But and you know, we gotta listen to Pride. But yeah, like, let's be honest, a lot of the games, Like with Jimmy Torn, they could be like a way around, leap for the collector scene. Would be the whole thing of like, oh, we only gonna do the digital leap, but if you want physical, go pay your like grand or whatever. But hell, any like as we have seen,
what game?
Oh, I do games in general. The video talking about the whole thing of how the Video Game Foundation and libraries got like denied the ability to be able to rent out games as well as rent them out like digitally, like, you know, through like a web browser or something. Kind of like how the Libby app already worked for pretty much all the library or the majority of libraries out there. So they were doing a lawsuit trying to get a library could resolve games, and they got denied. So the video talking about that. So pretty much any game in general, for the most part. All the stat they've been using that video, like game pre 2010 being like, what was it, 87%? Like not any able to get your hands on at all anymore outside of, you know, resellers. But yeah, it would be. I really wish it was. I really wish it was one of them cases. Like if the company is it and the company still had the library, or not library, but have like the license to the game. You know, obviously there's gonna be some game that will fall through the crack that will be lost media because, you know, especially a lot of licensed up. But yeah. Like, all this stuff should be available to buy digitally.
Made in 25 fucking years, who loses, right? But no, they don't want to do that because, you know, fuck you, that's why, basically. And then when you have the gumption...
Also, I think the main reason for that, like, don't get me wrong, you have a few exceptions here and there where you got certain companies that will, like, buy out or get the license for, like, emulation. You know, to do stuff. But I kind of feel like a lot of the game company outside of just don't think anyone care and they only want you to buy the new stuff. But also I think a lot of the company do not like with emulation. Can you remember the part that against the law, the whole WOM side? But emulation itself is not against the law. It just, you know, once you start putting WOMs in it, once it get iffy. So I feel like a lot of the corporations are still kind of bitter about that. And they do not want to add legitimacy to the companies or the like groups of people that are out there, you know, like making you know, like the Dolphin emulator, the like I would say the French emulator, but Nintendo always sued them into oblivion. But Nintendo. But I think that's what it is. I think it also the company don't want to add legitimacy to it because they are still very angry about them being legal. And then on top of that, they don't want to make in-house emulators because they don't want to spend the money. And also, I don't think they want to do like in-house emulator for every single game. When like realistically, you know, you just like get the emulation from someone who already got like 99% of the, you know, the platform, you know, playable. And then also could be that whole thing as well of just like don't want no IP to look bad because the emulation like glitches or bugs or, you know, what might come from like emulation. Like, for example, that look at our playthrough of Clock Tower 3 where, like, for whatever reason, the boss battle cutscene was, like, a light show for some reason. And I don't think they want, like, that type of stuff. And then I ain't counting getting into, like, the mentality of people who don't know any better being like, oh, the game is broken and horrible and it sucks and they're making a sequel. I'm not gonna buy it because that one sucks. And, like, no, the emulation, the issue you had was tied to, like, emulation bugs. It got nothing to do with the game itself originally. And so I think it's a lot of that. I think it's a lot of, like, bitterness and a lot of, they want to do it in-house, but they don't want to spend the money in-house. And they don't have the time, the money, not even the money, they don't have the time or the manpower anymore with them following everybody constantly of like making emulation from scratch. And they don't want like bad press around it if there were like bugs and whatnot. Which is like another reason like you saw with like Xbox of being like very specific games that have been like heavily tested. Any back in the 360 day, we did have like the warnings being like, hey, the game might have some light problems or whatever. But like when we got to like the Series X and stuff, you know, a lot of that stuff kind of went away. So they very much became like the reason why it like so limited on the Series X. It tied to, you know, like that type of perfection. And I think a lot of companies just don't want to deal with that.
To be like, maybe I shouldn't have to spend $400 to get 2 Pokemon games I liked when I was a kid. Maybe we should just have like digital access to these games that even Nintendo doesn't care enough to fucking make copies of anymore so that people can play it and you realize the impact. Oh no, we can't do that. Then people might have too much fun and the guy selling fucking Nintendo games for $900 might get hurt. It's just stupid. It's just so stupid.
I'm honestly, my only addendum to that is I am honestly surprised, and I still think it's going to happen at some point, that Nintendo,
a Donald Trump.
God damn it, chat. I still think eventually Nintendo, because Nintendo have always went for emulator, they always went for WOM sites. They have always went for esports. I feel like it only a matter of time before Nintendo thought like hitting up, especially like the bigger retro conventions, you know, that out there. Because, you know, a lot of them are getting pretty big in size here. Outside of the niche, you know, retro crowd. I am just waiting for Nintendo to start sending like DMCA to random conventions. To be like, there better not be any resellers selling Nintendo games in your con. And then they're going to try to shut down the con. I'm just waiting for that to happen. Because I feel like it's only a matter of time. Especially from Nintendo. Before they will start going after resellers as well. You know, at least, you know, from a con point of view or like a retail store point of view. So, and eBay as well. Like, yeah, Nintendo is just, like, Nintendo is easily, I know a lot of people love throwing around the whole anti-consumer Sony, anti-consumer this, you know, whatever. But yeah, I foresee Nintendo eventually coming after resellers, though.
Stupid. Video games are the only entertainment medium like this that is viewed in this light. You would never hear, well, I shouldn't say you would never, but realistically, you'd never hear people be like, we shouldn't preserve books. That's a bad idea. You know, people might like reading too much. You never hear people say, we shouldn't archive Hollywood and make sure that all the American films and whatnot are, you know, kept up.
Shut up, Troy.
Or whatever. People might enjoy the movie too much. Like, I'm pretty convinced at this point that if libraries never existed, right, and somebody came up with the concept today, hey, we should make a library where people can go and check out books and movies and other things in our culture. I'm pretty certain if that was, like, actually brought up today, people would refuse it. They'd be like, fuck that. That's...
Dude, okay, this is the thing. I don't think... I think he missing the point, but also sidestepping the point. It like they're kind of already doing that. Like, look, maybe the guy got the luxury of being in a blue state. I don't know, but they always intently doing this shit here on wet dates of trying to bet to get rid of libraries. So library already on the chopping block because like hell, all library might not even making another year at the way they're going downhill. So like. I personally think they already trying to like get rid of libraries of being a bad idea. So there was that, I guess.
Stupid. Why would we do that? We used to like revel in the idea of archiving our knowledge and all of our media and, you know, realizing the impact that it...
That because back in the day we actually thought knowledge was a good way for society, but as we have progressed, and especially in America, A lot of the wed leaders kind of will like knowledge is a bad thing because they can't control us as well. And how can we be the little baby popples going to work 9 to 5 with no life, keeping the country not afloat, but keeping the pockets afloat. Yeah, at more so what it is. Like some little wed caps kind of decided knowledge is a bad thing, and well, here we are. So it fucking sucks, heel chat. God damn it.
It had, and you know, glamorizing its history. But now with everything digital, we seem to just want to turn away from that at every turn.
And
the thing about gaming is, you know, digital preservation, that isn't really enough. There needs to be physical preservation that's constantly maintained to account for hardware failures and for, you know, physical media rot and stuff. There needs to be digital archives to, you know, back up the physical archives and provide more accessibility. And there needs to be actual, you know, like communication, I guess, between the publishers, the fans, and the historians, because why are
they're never going to do that
with the idea of all of this incredible history just disappearing and being basically inaccessible to future generations? It's just fucking stupid. It really is just fucking stupid.
Welcome
I mean,
to
90% of all the video games that have ever been created are at a legitimate risk of being just completely forgotten to history. And we just seem to be completely okay with that. Like, once again, in the book, I talk about this. Like, why would we allow this? Why are people who are so passionate about video games so willing to watch this happen? I don't know.
I honestly think, like, the main reason of that is I think the main reason that a lot of people are okay for this shit to happen is because if you look at, like, you know, late boomer, Gen X, millennials, like, a lot of us have just been beaten down. A lot of us have just given up. A lot of us have just said, fuck this hobby and, you know, pedal off to whatever. Or on the other side of that is the ones that is still around, that just like just the way it is types. Or the ones that have just like adapted into it. And then with, like, younger generations of, like, being trained out of the womb for this shit. And how a lot of them don't remember, like, a time when outfits wasn't a $5 to, like, $30 microtransaction. So to them, it always just been normal to assume. And I think a mix of the two kind of what have led us here. Or the three, I should say. You got to give up people that just give up on gaming. You have the people that just like the way it is, can't help it. Or the ones that just like have adopted into it, or the ones that don't even know any better because they wasn't alive. But, you know, predating now. So like, I think that is how that happened. Because, like, as we all know, as time marches on, more bullshit like that will become more acceptable. Just because no one know any better. So, yeah.
Is Pride even here?
I don't think Pride is the reason Pride would like watch a video. I'll be back in 30 minutes. So, I don't think Pride is. I think Pride is still tied up down in the basement for his nightly, you know, Sam Filament time. But yeah. Nonetheless. What's in the fucking box? Can't put me in the bot chat. I'm not up there. I am not up there. You can't do it, chat. You can't do it, chat.
Pot.
Okay, fine, chat. You want me in a goddamn box? I will slide my way into the goddamn box. Why don't up here? It's fine. It is fine. You can't stop me.
Really hope that this ends up getting overturned, man. This is just a terrible decision in general. And there's no really good, strong argument for it other than think of the corporation. Think of the sad corporation that shoots itself in the foot, handicaps itself, chooses not to make free money, and chooses not to preserve the art that their employees create. Did you think about their feelings today? Well, anyway, with that being said, guys, thank you for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like. Subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, well, fighting for game preservation and signing out. And that's a wrap on this video, but big shout out to my Optimus Nation supporters. You guys are the real MVPs.
But yeah. Sadly, like, no matter how much I want this stuff to get worked out, and like, I think sadly we will continue having to be on the 7C for a lot of this stuff, and then hope that people will do the due diligently, be, you know, still dumping stuff and whatnot into the market for people to elite download any of it is against the law. But yeah, I think this sucks. But nonetheless, here you go, chat. Here you a video, chat. This is all thanks to Pride. Said Pride demanded it. Because Pride wants to see his game, and like I said, he still being experimented on by Sam. So there you go. There's the video. It will be on YouTube. Also, if you are watching this on YouTube and you're not aware, if you're not aware of chat around here, the one thing to always remember about the chat here.
Chat's organized here. They're organized to fucking torture me, okay?
That's the way it go here. For example, like, favorite, and subscribe, chat. My chat just scream no at me for the next 20 minutes.